Are you thinking about moving over to London with your family, or as you expand your family looking for the best neighborhoods that are going to be family friendly? Then make sure to stay tuned and let's check out this video. One of the great things about London, while it is a thriving metropolis city, it has also got some fantastic neighborhoods for families. Whether you're just getting started or thinking about that long-term options, let's highlight some great options for you. Let's highlight Richmond in Southwest London, a fantastic leafy area that is so great for families. From transport perspective, you can get there on the District line or overground stations, and there are fantastic buses that'll connect you to Heathrow, Twickenham, Hounslow, wherever you need to get to. What really makes Richmond so desirable are the green spaces. There is, of course, Richmond Park, which is one of London's 8 royal parks covering 2,500 acres and home to ancient trees, herds of deer, and the Isabella Plantation. You've also got Old Deer Park, which is 360 acres, of which 220 acres are leased as sports grounds for sports, particularly rugby and golf. And there are actually no deer in this park despite the name. Then there's Scion House in Scion Park. The Scion House is a Grade 1 listed building within the 200-acre Scion Park. It's even had recent filming, including Netflix's Bridgerton, BBC Killing Eve, Great British Bake Off, and Silent Witness. This is a countryside-style park with grasslands and meadows to enjoy. And then there's Kew Gardens, 14 acres of ponds, wildlife, green space, and even art. You can actually get a Kew Gardens membership card for the family for just £87, and there'll be lots of kid-friendly events throughout the year. According to the Metropolitan Police, Richmond has some of the lowest crime rates throughout London. Obviously, if you're moving to Richmond with a young family, you're going to be thinking about schools, and there's some really great news on that front. Richmond has 28 schools that are Ofsted rated outstanding, with an additional 27 that are rated good. Obviously, you're going to be thinking about homes, and Richmond's going to have some great options for you. You've got Victorian-style homes, Georgian-era homes, as well as picturesque cottages and some home conversions. Property stats via Rightmove. Properties in Richmond had an overall price of $1,067,000 over the last year. The majority of sales in Richmond over the last year were flat selling for an average of £566,000, while terrace properties sold for an average of $1.1 million, and semi-detached properties fetched $1.4 million on average. Overall, sold prices in Richmond over the last year were 5% up on the previous year and 7% on the 2020 peak of £995,000. Now we're going to highlight Crystal Palace, whose park has got dinosaur statues, skate park, and one of the largest outdoor mazes in the country, and a boating park. Near to the park is a railway station, as well as the National Sports Center, which is a 15,000-seater athletic stadium and popular attraction for sports fans. The station offers the Network Rail and London Overground between London Bridge and London Victoria, in addition to services terminating in Beckenham Junction and Sutton. Crystal Palace is located in the borough of Bromley, which also has below-average crime statistics. Another great reason why Crystal Palace is so desirable is it actually has one of the highest points in London, so you've got some fantastic views of the city. Crystal Palace has 3 primary schools that are rated outstanding, with an additional 3 comprehensive or secondary schools also rated as outstanding. Crystal Palace has a high percentage of Victorian homes, and many of them can be Victorian-style villas with as many as 14 bedrooms. You'll find most of these surrounding the park, and they've now been converted into flats. You've also got modern apartment blocks, as well as 1930s style semi-detached properties. Property statistics via Rightmove include properties in Crystal Palace have an overall price of $471,000 over the last year. The majority of sales during the last year were flat, selling for an average of $373,000, while terrace properties sold for an average of £611,000, with semi-detached properties fetching £702,000. So relatively speaking, Crystal Palace is pretty affordable. Overall, sold prices in Crystal Palace over the last year were 3% up on the previous year and 3% up on the 2020 peak of £457,000. Now let's come north of the river and highlight Chiswick, which is a fantastic neighborhood in West London. Chiswick is leafy and tony and so family friendly, and it's really accessible on the transport line. You've got 3 tube stops, whether that's Chiswick Park, Turnham Green, and Gunnersbury, all about a 30-minute ride into central London. Chiswick has swimming pools, bakeries, a popular food market, and so much for the family to enjoy. I absolutely love Chiswick High Street, which has got a fantastic array of cafes, bars, restaurants, and grocery stores. For green space, Turnham Green is a triangular open space bisected by the roadway. There are flower beds with a war memorial to the east with a few mature trees. There are also plans for a children's play park. Schools here are highly regarded and extremely competitive. For example, Orchard House is so popular that parents are advised to put their children on the waiting list at birth. Property types include arts and crafts style homes in Bedford Park, large Edwardian and detached 20s and 30s homes, some with 100-foot gardens in Grove Park and offer Thames frontages, and period cottages at Strand on the Green, which are once a small Thames fishing village. Properties in Chiswick had an overall average price of $1.1 million last year. The majority of sales during the past year were terrace properties, selling for an average of $1.28 million, and flats sold for an average of £574,000, with semi-detached properties fetching $1.86 million. Overall sold prices in Chiswick over the last year were up 8% on the previous year and 15% up on the 2020 peak of £969,000. Now, if you want affordability, let's talk about Bexley, which is often overlooked, but it is a borough in London and is east of Greenwich. Reportedly, Bexley has over 100 parks, and some of them have trees approaching 200 years old, so it's a fantastic area for nature lovers. In fact, over a third of the borough has open space. You've got a very popular leisure center, Crook Lodge, which has a 25-meter swimming pool, sauna, a gym, and a handful of outdoor sports pitches. The Thames is to the north and is home of the Arinzeh Yacht Club, one of London's leading sailing venues. The Elizabeth line at Abbey Wood has half the commute to Canary Wharf, which you can get to in just over 10 minutes. Property types here include 3 to 4 story Georgian buildings with garden squares, as well as 1950s style homes. Properties in Bexley had an average price of £493,000 over the last year. The majority of sales were semi-detached properties selling for an average of £527,000, and terrace properties sold for an average of £473,000, with flats fetching on average £270,000. Overall, sold prices in Bexley over the last year were up 1% on the previous year and 11% on the 2020 peak of £446,000. And finally, we're going to highlight Greenwich, which is wildly popular for families for its open space and ease and access into Canary Wharf. Greenwich Park is actually a rural park with a beautiful spot for picnic or sports while taking in the elevated views of the city. It's actually the most historic of London's 8 rural parks. Home to the Royal Observatory and the Greenwich Meridian, it has impressive views over the river towards Canary Wharf. For eating, if you're visiting, you've got the Queen's Orchard, which is open every Saturday from Easter to October, and the Pavilion Cafe. On the school front, you've got 13 outstanding schools within 3 miles of Greenwich and additional 46 outstanding primary schools. For commuters, the Docklands Light Rail can get you into the heart of London's financial district, Canary Wharf, in about 20 minutes. You've also got the North Greenwich Tube Station, which is not super convenient, but it is accessible by bus depending on where you'd be coming from. There's also a number of museums, as well as the O2 venue, which is great for entertainment. You've got shops, bowling alley, cinema, restaurants, and of course, it's a concert venue. On the home front, you've got Georgian, early Victorian villas and terraces, as well as flat-fronted 2-story Victorian cottages and arts and crafts houses. If you prefer modern properties, new build flats are in Greenwich Town Center and on the peninsula, and there is so much happening on the new build side. Properties in Greenwich had an overall price of £624,000 over the last year, and the majority of sales were flats, selling for an average of £540,000. Terrace properties sold for an average of £901,000, with semi-detached properties fetching on average £1.3 million. Overall, sold prices in Greenwich over the last year were 11% down the previous year and were 4% down on the 2020 peak of £646,000. So what did you think of the neighborhoods we highlighted? If you're a family thinking about moving to London or relocating, which ones did you like the most? Make sure to leave me a comment, and don't forget to hit that like button and let YouTube know we're putting out great content. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel where I share great tips and information about the London property market and living in this fabulous city. So that's Google Arinzeh with Onyx Property team and Keller Williams. Bye for now.